Hey everybody, it's Mark Cabana here again, and in this video I'm going to show you how to use the newly added proxy support feature for Places Scout. So we're going to go over that as well as how to configure the proxies for optimal data gathering for business owner name data from Manta.com. So if you want to get this data, it is very important that you use proxies and know how to use them correctly so that you get the maximum amount of results possible given the number of proxies you have. So let's get started. Okay, so if you want to gather business owner name data from Manta.com, and the way you typically do that is by clicking on the Select Additional Data to Gather button and choosing the Gather Business Owner Name option, then it's very important that you have enough anonymous and fast proxies to use to gather this data. And that's what I'm going to cover in this video, is how to configure the proxies and ensure that they're set up right so that you're able to get this data. So we're going to head on over to the Settings tab here, and in the Settings tab you're going to see a new button here that says Proxy Settings. So the first thing to do is to click this button, and it's going to bring up the Proxy Manager. What the Proxy Manager does is it allows you to add proxies for use with data gathering. It allows you to check these proxies to see how fast they are and to see if they can be used in Places Scout. And it also allows you to configure the various settings that are available for proxies. So the easiest way to get started with this is under the Add Proxies tab here, there's an Enter Proxies to Add box, and we're going to paste a list of proxies that I've gathered using a proxy program. By the way, if you need a program that can find good proxies, I recommend Proxy Goblin. I have a link here. You can click on it and it'll open it up in your browser. Just something someone recommended to me on Warrior Forum, and it seems to work well. So that's where I got these proxies from, and once I paste them into the Enter Proxies to Add box, the next thing to do is to click Add to Proxy List. After you do that, the proxies you pasted will be added into the grid view to the right here. You'll see the total number of proxies. There's 22 total. There's none active now because we haven't checked them yet. So the next thing to do is to actually check these proxies. And the way you do that is by clicking the Check Proxies / Refresh Latencies button. So I'm going to go ahead and check this, and it's going to go and check these proxies and see which ones we can use in Places Scout. So we'll give it a second here, and it should be done fairly shortly. Okay, so it's done checking the proxies now, and after it checks the proxies, you're going to see the grid view is now populated with some data for each proxy. The first thing you'll see is a latency column, and this time you see here is basically the amount of time it takes to get Google's homepage. Instead of doing a ping on the proxy, I actually try to get Google's homepage. That way we see how long that takes. We get some real data, and we measure that time. And we can also measure some other things by doing that. So the next column over is requires auth, which is short for requires authentication. What this column denotes is whether or not the proxy requires a login. And if it does, you cannot use it in Places Scout. So if you see yes here, this will be red. You cannot use that proxy within Places Scout. So do not set those as active. The next one is redirected. What that means is whether or not the request for Google's homepage was redirected to another page. If it is redirected, again, you will not be able to use this proxy in Places Scout because we don't know what's going on with this proxy, whether or not it's going to give us the right data or not. So if either of those two come back yes, do not use that proxy. And the way you configure what proxies to use is the next column over, which is active. Is active basically sets whether or not we're going to use this proxy for data gathering within Places Scout. So if that's checked, it will be used. Now you'll see that only some of these were checked, and those are affected by the settings. So I'm going to go over that 1 second. I want to describe one more setting, which is the is master. Basically, the way the data gathering works in Places Scout is that it does not use proxies by default for any Google.com request, and it just really doesn't need to with the new code. You don't really get many CAPTCHAs, so it doesn't by default use a proxy for gathering Google.com data. Now, if you want to use a proxy for getting Google data, you can set a single master proxy. So if I check this proxy as the master, what that means is that this proxy will be used for all Google.com requests. So that's what is master means, is that we'll use this proxy for Google requests. Is active is a little bit different in that it means that we'll use it to gather Manta.com data. And I'm just going to go ahead and uncheck that is master flag because I don't really like to use proxies when gathering Google data. I'd rather the request come from my IP address. That way I know it's I'm going to see the same data as what I'd see in the browser. Next I'd like to go over the proxy settings. So we're going to head to the proxy settings tab, and here you'll see various settings that configure different aspects of how proxies are used and checked within Places Scout. So this first setting here is show proxy debug window. If this is checked, when you go to gather manta.com data, if you have that gather business owner name data option checked in the find local clients section, you're going to get a window that appears that's going to show you how many active proxies you have, how many are banned, and it's just going to give you some debug information in regards to how much data it's gathered, what it's currently gathering, when the proxies get banned. So that's nice to see exactly what's going on when you do get this data. So that's what that option does. I'll show you that window whenever we actually go to gather the data. The next is check proxies on program startup. If this is checked, it's going to go ahead and do the check proxies, what we just did a minute ago. It's going to do that automatically every time you start the program. So if you want to check your proxies, which I actually recommend doing this, that way you know which ones are available and which ones aren't. Every time you start Places Scout, keep this option checked. Next, you're going to see check proxies in parallel. If this option is checked, it's going to check all your proxies in parallel instead of one by one. So this will dramatically speed up the process of checking the proxies. And there's a max simultaneous checks option here. This allows you to configure how many simultaneous proxy checks can go on at once. So I like to keep it at 5. You can probably put this up to 20 if you have a fast internet connection, but just keep in mind the more you have going on at once, the slower the proxies are going to respond. You know, I'd recommend 5, but if you have a big list of proxies and you want the checking to occur faster, you know, you can bump this up. Okay, so next is the max timeouts before discarding setting. Basically, when you use proxies, sometimes you'll request a website and the request will time out. And this happens, you know, some proxies are not that reliable. And it even happens with your regular IP. You know, if you have too much going on, sometimes your request will just start to time out. So what this setting does is it configures how many timeouts we're going to allow the proxy to have before we discard it, which is basically setting is active to false. So 5's a good setting there. If you get more than 5 timeouts with a proxy, it's generally pretty unreliable. So that's what that setting is. Next is the max active latency. This is 500 is a good default for that. Basically what that is the max latency to automatically check the proxy as is active whenever we go to check the proxies. So you see here that any proxy that had a latency under 500 milliseconds was automatically set to is active for use with data gathering. So you can increase that setting or decrease it however you like. That just configures whether or not we're going to automatically set it as active when we go to check the proxies. Next is the HTTP connect timeout setting. This is how long we're going to wait for a request before we consider the request times out. And that goes hand in hand with the max timeout. So if I say I get Google's homepage and we're sitting there for more than 5 seconds, we're just going to say that timed out, and we're going to increment the proxy's current timeouts. So that's what that setting is. And the last setting is what to do whenever you get a CAPTCHA from Manta. So when encountering Manta CAPTCHAs, you have the option to either solve the CAPTCHA or switch to the next available proxy. If you choose to switch, it's just going to discard the current proxy and move to the next one. That way you don't really have to solve any CAPTCHAs. And if you choose to attempt to solve CAPTCHA, it'll actually show you the CAPTCHA and allow you to type it in. If you do solve the CAPTCHA, it's going to keep your proxies alive longer. They won't get banned as quick. But it's purely up to you whether or not you want to solve the CAPTCHAs or switch to the next proxy. I just like to switch because, you know, I can get enough proxies where I don't need to be bothered by CAPTCHAs. So that's it for the proxy settings. A couple other things you can do with the proxy manager. In the upper right corner of the grid view, you'll see an actions button. You can clear all the proxies, and this will delete all your current proxies at once. You can copy the active proxies to the clipboard. You can copy all the proxies to the clipboard. You can export the proxies to a text file. And if you do start to sort the grid view and you lose that default sort order where it's by is active and latency, there's an actions menu item to restore the default sort order. So that'll sort it by is active and then by latency. So that's what that does. Next, you can select these proxies. You can click and drag to select multiple proxies. You can right click to copy those to the clipboard. You can delete those. So if I want to delete all these proxies down here that didn't respond, you can right click and hit delete. You can also delete a proxy by clicking the X next to each proxy, and that'll go ahead and delete that proxy as well. So that's pretty much how you use the proxy manager. You basically paste your proxies in, you click add to proxy list, you go ahead and you check them, and you make sure that the ones you want to use for data gathering are set to is active. Make sure that you do not set any of these is active if they require authentication or if they were redirected. I'm going to go ahead and set these two as is active because they're just slightly over the 500 millisecond threshold, so those are probably good proxies as well. So once you're done here, you just simply click done, and then we're going to head over to the Find Local Clients section so we can gather the data. Okay, so next I'm going to enter my keywords and locations. So I'm going to go ahead and enter Restaurants Pittsburgh. I'm going to make sure that I have the Gather Business Owner Name option checked. And I'm also going to go back to the Settings tab and choose to gather the top 100 results. And one other setting I didn't explain is the Manta delay setting. Basically, this is how long the software will wait between requests to manta.com. The longer you wait, the longer your proxies are going to stay alive and won't get banned. So I have it set to 3,000, which seems to be a pretty good number. If you don't have a lot of proxies and you want to keep them alive longer, you can set this, 4,000 or 5,000 or up to 10,000, which is 10 seconds. But 3,000 seems to be a good number. You seem to get a decent bit of results before you get banned. So we're going to go back to the Find Local Clients, and we're going to go ahead and choose to gather this data. So in terms of the proxy debug, so this is what I was talking about, is this window here. That setting in the proxy manager that said to show the proxy debug window, this is the windows. So on the left of the window, you're going to see your current usable proxies. So these are the ones that we can use. To the right, you'll see unusable, which what happens when the proxy gets banned is it'll be declared unusable, and it'll appear in this list. And it'll also have a timeout associated with it, so it'll tell you when it can be used again, which is typically about a half hour or so after it gets banned. And then down here in the proxy debug output box, you're going to actually see detailed data gathering once we get to the business owner data. So right now it's getting the places page data. But here you'll see exactly what's going on, whether it found data, whether it didn't find data, if a proxy got banned. So we'll let this gather the data, and I'll be back as soon as it's ready for the business owner data. Okay, so it started to gather the business owner data. So in the debug output down here, you can see some entries. It says, business owner data has been found for the result name. You also see, no business owner data could be found for a result. And, not all results are going to have business owner data that Places Scout will be able to find. So it's just telling you that it wasn't able to find it. As long as you continue to see data being outputted here, everything's good. If you start to see a lot of no business owner data could be found in a row, you just see that nonstop, then there might be some issues with the proxies. Something might have happened. I think I've worked out all the bugs, so it shouldn't really happen anymore. But if that does happen, you can always just go over here and abort the operation and start over. When you do that, it'll pick up where it left off, so it won't try to get data that it's already gotten. So you can see here it's getting all the data, and as the proxies get banned, they'll appear in the unusable proxies list. You'll see a entry in the debug output that says this proxy was banned. So we'll wait a little bit and see if we can find one that gets banned here, and just so you can see that. And actually, we're just about done here. It's still using the same proxy that we started with. We almost got 100 results. So that Manta delay setting of 3,000 seems to be a good one. You can see here I've almost gotten 100 results, and still using the same proxy. So you can try 3,000 for the Manta delay. It appears to be working fairly well. We haven't even gotten banned yet here. So we're just about done, and I will explain the data, and I'll also bring this back up just to show you what happens when you get banned real quick. Okay, so we have all the data now. So you can see the contact names. All your business owner name data is here for all the results that we could find it for, the whole way to the bottom. There's a couple things you'll see. Sometimes you'll see n/a and it will have a hyperlink be underlined. What this means is that we found a MANA listing for the business, but there was no business owner name on that listing, so we just hyperlink you to it. If you see an n/a and it's not hyperlinked, that means we could not find any Manta page for that business. So that's what the data looks like. I'm going to go ahead and we'll change the city here to Cleveland, and I'm going to run this again until it gets banned so I can show you guys. So we'll be back as soon as the ban sets in. Okay, so we finally got one of the proxies banned, and what happens is it gets added to this list over here to the right under unusable proxies. You can see in the debug output it says proxy declared unusable, Manta banned. So it tells you that it's going to switch to the next one, and the current proxy label down here tells you the next proxy that's being used. So that proxy actually was pretty successful. It actually got 120 results before it got banned. I've seen them get banned anywhere between 10 and 50. That one was actually really good. So you can see with the settings that I went over in the video, try the Manta delay at 3000. Make sure you have enough proxies to get the data you're trying to gather, and you can kind of just see how this all works. So I'm going to let this finish up here and show you a couple other things, and I'm going to wrap this video up. Okay, so I actually canceled the data gathering after about 50 results because I wanted to show you how you can basically cancel data gathering. You'll see here it got about 50 results, and the rest of the contact names are NA, just because I canceled it. Now, if you click Find Local Clients again, it is going to pick up where it left off. So it'll start with this result and continue from there. And lastly, one other thing you can do is you can actually click on each of these results, and it'll bring up that result in your browser. So if you want to verify that the data the software got was accurate, you can just simply click on it and view the MANA profile and see the contact names. So that's pretty much it for this video. You see how to use the proxies, make sure you set the proper ones active. You see how they're used with data gathering. You saw the proxy debug window. So that should do it. If you guys run into any problems, feel free to shoot me an email at support@placescout.com, and I'll see if I can fix any issues. But everything seems to be working great now. So the last thing is, if you are going to gather thousands of results, just make sure that you have, enough proxies. I would say, typically one proxy per every 50 results is a good number to choose. So if you want 1,000 results, make sure you have enough active proxies before you go and gather that data. All right, everyone have a great day, and we will see you at the next video. Bye now.